All right, section 4.5 is the Pythagorean theorem converse. So we learned the Pythagorean theorem that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. C is always the hypotenuse. C is the hypotenuse, which is always the longest side. Okay, the hypotenuse is always the longest side. Now the converse to the Pythagorean theorem says that if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then we know it's a right triangle. Now when we learned the Pythagorean theorem, we said that if ABC is a right triangle, then we know the Pythagorean theorem is true. Today we're going to say if the Pythagorean theorem is true, then we know that triangle ABC is actually a right triangle. So the converse just means we switch the if and the then. So is this a right triangle? Well, we have to check. Does a squared plus b squared equal c squared? So hypotenuse is always the longest side. So this is how I know that 20 is c, and then doesn't matter which one we call a and which one we call b. Does 16 squared plus 12 squared equal, question mark, does it equal 20 squared? So does actually, for the purpose of today's lesson, I'm always going to put the hypotenuse first. So 20 squared equals 16 squared plus 12 squared. We need to check that. Is that true? So does 400 equal 256 plus 144? Yes, 400 equals 400. So therefore, yes, it is a right triangle. Okay? Because c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Pythagorean theorem is true, therefore it's a right triangle. So here, c is the longest side. So does 5 squared equal 4 squared plus 4 squared? Question mark. Does 25 equal 16 plus 16? 25 does not equal 32, therefore no, triangle ABC is not a right triangle. 14 is our longest side, so that's our C value. Does 14 squared equal 12 squared plus 6 squared? So does 196 equal 144 plus 36? 196 does not equal 180. So no, triangle ABC is not a right triangle because C squared does not equal A squared plus B squared. Now, what if I wasn't given a picture of a triangle? You're going to do the same thing. You're going to take the longest side, and that's your C value. So does 6 squared equal 2 squared plus 5 squared? Does 36 equal 4 plus 25? No, 36 does not equal 29. Therefore, triangle ABC is not a right triangle. Now, we talked about this a lot, and you saw that's why I erased on the first slide. Recall the symmetric property of equality. That just means it doesn't matter which side of the equal sign something is on. 1 plus 1 equals 2, and 2 equals 1 plus 1, right? So far in chapter 4, we've been writing things like this. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. So we're going to talk about classifying triangles as right, acute, or obtuse. So how are we going to do that? If C squared equals A squared plus B squared, we know that triangle ABC is a right triangle. Okay, that's what we've been talking about with the Pythagorean theorem. However, if C squared is less than A squared plus B squared, then triangle ABC is acute. This is why I've been wanting you guys to put C squared first. Okay, so less than, I like to think of less than 90 degrees for acute, so that makes sense. If C squared is less than A squared plus B squared, then it is an acute triangle. And then if C squared is greater than A squared plus B squared, then triangle ABC is obtuse. So that makes sense as well, right? Greater than makes sense that it would be an obtuse triangle. But you always have to put C squared first. That's the important part. The other important part is that C is the longest side. So similar to the first couple examples we did. Now here you might not know which side is the longest one. We know that the square root of 36 is 6, so we know the square root of 35 is just a little bit less than 6. If you have to, you can type it in your calculator and get the decimal. So this is our longest side, C. So let's take our longest side and square it. And we want to check, is that greater than, less than, or equal to a squared plus b squared? So 4 squared plus 5 squared. Okay, well, square root and squared are inverse operations. So they undo each other. And that means that if we square the square root, they just cancel each other. So that's 35. 35 is what to 16 plus 25? Well, 35 is less than 41, which makes this an acute triangle. Okay, c squared was less than a squared plus b squared, so it's acute. So show that the triangle is an obtuse triangle. Oh, did they tell? Yep, they told us in the directions. Show that it's an acute triangle. So yep, we confirm that. So here, let's confirm that this is an obtuse triangle, and you can see that by this angle right here. So 15 is our longest side, so that's c. So c squared is what to a squared plus b squared? So 15 squared is 225, and that is what to 64 plus 144? Well, 225, oops, not 2,000. Whoops. 225 is greater than 208, which means that it is an obtuse triangle, just like they told me in the directions. So c squared was greater than a squared plus b squared, which made it an obtuse triangle. So this next section says classify the triangle with the given side lengths as either acute, right, or obtuse. Okay, so we need to take the longest side, which is 8, and we need to check, is 8 squared greater than, less than, or equal to 6 squared plus 5 squared? So 64 is what to 36 plus 25? Well, 36 plus 25 is 61, and 64 is greater than 61, which classifies this as an obtuse triangle. Now, you might not always be given a picture, but that's okay. You still identify the longest side, which is 7, and that's our c value. So 7 squared is greater than, less than, or equal to 4 squared plus 6 squared. So 49 is what to 16 plus 36? 49 and 16 plus 36 is 52, so that's less than 52, which makes it an acute triangle because c squared is less than a squared plus b squared. Again, pick your longest side, that's your c value. 37 squared is what? Greater than, less than, or equal to 35 squared plus 25 squared. So 37 squared is 1,369. 35 squared is 1,225. And 25 squared is 625. So when we add those two numbers together, we get 1,850. So we know 1,369 is less than 1,850. So that is an acute triangle. These are U-tries, so go ahead and pause this video, and then I am going to go through them. So once you unpause it, now I'm going to do these 6 problems just so that you can check your answers. So, longest side. 6 squared is what to 2 squared plus 5 squared? 36 is what to 4 plus 25? 36 is greater than 29, which makes this an obtuse triangle. How about the next one? 17 is the longest side, so 17 squared is what to 15 squared plus 8 squared? 17 squared is 289, and then this side we also get 289, so those were equal. Oops. So that makes it a right triangle. We haven't had a right triangle in a couple examples. Right? C squared equals a squared plus b squared, so it's a right triangle. And ooh, these are all three the same length, 7, 7, 7, so it doesn't matter which one you choose as C. So 7 squared is what to 7 squared plus 7 squared? Well, automatically we know the left side's going to be less than, right? 49 is less than 49 plus 49. 49 is less than 98. 98, sorry. Less than 98. And so that makes it an acute triangle. The last three, use the side lengths to classify the triangle. Again, same thing, we just don't have the picture of the triangle. Pick your longest side, 24 and 24, so they're both longest. 24 squared is what to 24 squared plus 7 squared? You would have gotten 576 is what to 576 plus 49? Well, in that case, you don't even have to add them. We know that 576 is going to be less than that value because we're adding something to 576, which makes it an acute triangle. 25 is my longest side here, so 25 squared is what to 7 squared plus 24 squared? So 625 is what to 49 plus 576? 625 is equal to 625, which makes it a right triangle. And again, my longest side here is C, so 26 squared is what to 7 squared plus 24 squared? That 676 is what to 625? It is greater than, which makes it an obtuse triangle. Okay, that was a really fast lesson. Hopefully you guys paused it. The sub is going to pass out your, oops, I don't know how that, okay. The sub's going to pass out your 4.5 homework. I provided a key, so you can ask the sub if it's right or wrong, but go ahead and work for the rest of the hour. Whatever you don't finish is your homework over the weekend. Please do your homework, and I will see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend.